Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Steph. I'm a stay-at-home mom, former slob, on a mission to make life easier through daily habits and routines. And this is the Slob Sisters podcast with my sister Jill.
Hey everyone, welcome to our very first podcast. We're super excited to be doing this with each other and sharing it with you guys. I think it's going to be a lot of fun for us and hopefully for all the listeners. So let's dive right in and talk about what this podcast is all about.
Yeah, so it's going to be with you and me. We're sisters living in very different locations. We live like 1,000 kilometers apart. So this is a really fun project for us to do together. And we're just going to be exploring the art of imperfect homemaking. And I just felt like this was a good round title for us because we do a lot of that over on my YouTube channel, The Secret Slob. But, you know, a lot of the topic of homemaking has been traditionally applied to non-working, stay-at-home women. But really, these days, anyone that has a home, anyone that's had to, you know, decorate or make a meal or take care of a child really is a homemaker in some capacity. And so in this podcast, we're going to do a really deep dive into looking at how we can make that life easier, kind of some of the struggles and some of the joys involved in all things homemaking. So I think that's a perfect place to start. One thing we get asked about all the time is the difference between stay-at-home mom and working mom systems. And I feel like we're the perfect people to discuss this because I am a full-time stay-at-home mom and you are a full-time working mom.
I'm a working mom. So we have a totally, you know, opposite perspective on homemaking. And I think you're totally right on that. The word homemaking kind of puts a vision of that whole, you know, having the apron on, making a turkey for dinner kind of thing. And that is not at all my life, I just say.
No, I mean, I stay at home and that's not my life either. So let's, I thought this would be a good first topic was to kind of weigh the pros and cons and talk about just how you can make either life easier, you know, using systems, daily habits, routines, and then just also giving yourself a break no matter what situation you're in. So let's start with what does your life look like? Like, what is a day in your life?
So for me, I'm by myself a lot of the times. My husband works out of town, so I get up in the morning and it is, you know, chaos. I'm trying to get these kids out the door within half an hour, getting them dressed, getting their lunches packed, getting myself dressed, getting my own lunch packed, and out the door by about 7:15. Getting them off to daycare and driving myself to work for 8 o'clock. I have that 8-hour stretch where I'm at work. And, you know, that's kind of my me time in a day. And then I pick them up after work at about 4:35, and then it's a rush to get dinner on. We have a little bit of, you know, fun in the evenings, doing an activity or hanging out. And then it's bedtime routines, getting into bed. And then, you know, I might have a half an hour to myself at the end of the day. So that's my day in a nutshell.
Yeah, you're busy. It just to me seems like nonstop. And you get up quite early in the morning too, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have to be up at 6:30 in order to kind of have our stuff ready and get out the door.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess that's not so different. We have a 2-year-old. We are also up around 6 or 6:30. So completely opposite from you. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I am still up early. I have 3 kids, age 2, 4, and 6. We're on the 2-year plan. And yeah, we get up in the morning and we're up early and we get started, but it's definitely not a rush, right? We can just kind of go at our own leisure, get dressed when we're ready. We can have breakfast, kind of slowly clean up. I usually do my cleaning routines in the morning and then my kids will just play. We usually leave the house in the morning at some point and go do something. We come home, have lunch. The baby, who's, well, 2 years old, toddler, naps. And then in the afternoon, I usually homeschool my one daughter, or we just kind of play quietly, or sometimes I'll get a bit of work done because I am a stay-at-home mom, but I still do this. So it's kind of a working thing too. And then the rush starts again around like 4 o'clock when I make dinner. My husband comes home. And then the kids go to bed around 8. We do watch TV or we do something. And that's our day. It's pretty much the same every single day, but 90 to 95% of my life right now is childcare, I would say.
Yeah. You get less me time, you know, than I do, I think.
Oh, big time. And it's often like very guilt-ridden me time where I'm like, go watch TV. I need to be alone for 5 minutes. Or, you know, it's because I can't just leave them and go out for a walk by myself. And even, you know, if you've ever tried to go for a walk with a 2 and a 4-year-old, it's not exactly the brisk refresh that you're looking for. You know, it's about a kilometer in an hour or so, which involves lots of picking people up off the ground and stuff. So yeah, I always have to be creative in finding that time to recharge myself a little bit.
Yeah, I definitely find those times at work, you know, having lunch by myself during my lunch break, drinking my coffee without heating it up in the microwave like 5 times. So, you know, there's that aspect too. But I am still working when I'm there, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. It's not like you're just sitting around having like rest and relax massages or something. So like, why go? So this is kind of interesting for us, especially because our parents would have predicted the exact opposite for us.
Definitely.
I think our parents thought that I was going to be kind of in the big city, big like power job, working, maybe have some kids, but really just career focused. And they always said from when you were like a little kid, you were just going to be a mom, or maybe you'd be a babysitter. I think even at one point you wanted to be a babysitter as your job. So childcare just always seemed like the thing. And then when we had kids, which was right around the same time, we totally swapped. And so I just want to know why you chose, because in Canada we get a year of paid maternity leave. So you get a good chunk of time to really settle into that mom life and then decide, am I going back to work or am I going to stay home with these kids? So what was it, you know, around that end of the year, half year mark that made you decide, or did you always know?
I think I always knew. And I mean, in this conversation, putting finances aside, because that's obviously something that plays a big role in the decision to stay home or not, we never even had that conversation. It just was always kind of what was going to happen. I really like my job. I never, you know, wake up not wanting to go to work. I enjoy going. And so I actually went to work early with both kids. And I'm sure people who live outside of Canada who get like 12, 13 weeks are like, oh my gosh, you gave that up. But I was ready. I was ready to get back. You know, that's a part of my identity is my job, and I really enjoy that. So it never actually was a decision that I sat down and thought, maybe I should stay home. It just always was that I was going to go back to work.
Yeah.
And it wasn't for you.
Remember.
You tried going back to work, right?
Yeah. Okay. So really quick, I just want you to say what your job is.
So I'm an ultrasound tech. So I work in the medical field. So I work at a clinic in the city, and I do all different kinds of ultrasound, not just babies. And yeah, I really like
everyone
it.
thinks it's just babies. Everyone
I know. Every time I say my job, they're like, oh, that's so cute and fun. I'm like, well, yeah, sometimes it's cute and fun. But a lot of times it's, you know, it's challenging and it's interesting, and I get to talk to lots of people during the day. And so I really enjoy it, and it's challenging for me. And so getting out of the house to do that, it feels good, and it's a job that feels good at the end of the day a lot of times. So.
Mm-hmm. And you have a pretty amazing friend group that's built into your work. You know, like
absolutely.
you have
that's my social life.
Yeah, and you have people that you went to school, like university with, that are still working with you because it's such a niche job, right? Everybody that went to school works at one of 3 companies kind of thing, and you know exactly where everyone is, and you followed up with them, and you have a very small class. So I feel like you have a really strong social life that's really kind of hinged on that job a little bit. You would probably feel pretty left out if you weren't there.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
Yeah. So like you were saying, I did go back. So switching back to me, I guess, a stay-at-home mom. And why I chose to be a stay-at-home mom, because I didn't expect that. I didn't even expect that as I went on maternity leave when I had my first baby.
I don't think any of us expected that. Like, I would never, ever peg you as being a stay-at-home mom. Yeah. I
know. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that like I grew up with our mom and Jill grew up with our dad. We lived in different towns, in different houses, and definitely had slightly different childhoods. Like our parents
slightly.
our parents have similar moral values and kind of direction, but their methodology was completely different. And so I'm growing up with a single mom, and I never had this stay-at-home mom, I guess, model. It never even occurred to me that that was something that people have. Like, I guess I knew, but I didn't realize what it would be like, or I never really thought. And I know our mom, because she was a single mom, she always kind of instilled in us this idea that we needed to be able to take care of ourselves, because you never know what was going to happen.
She made us
right, and so that's something I've always kind of kept in the back of my head. So I did have a really good job, but what's interesting, and maybe I didn't tell you this, but maybe about a year before I even got married, I don't even think I had met my husband yet. I remember I was up at camp because I work in environmental in the oil and gas industry. I was up at camp, and I remember sitting down and thinking, this job is never going to work if I have a family. I was away for long stretches of time, working out of town, working way up north, or when I used to live in the city, I'd work all over the province of Alberta. And I would work with people who had kids, and it was always this major panic to get back on time to pick them up for daycare or from school. And a lot of times the job just wouldn't allow for people to come home early. We had big jobs going on, and it cost a lot of money to have this equipment out there. And I remember seeing these other parents and just thinking like, wow, this looks awful. And so I just think my job was never a very good fit for having kids. I was also kind of ready for a change. I liked my job. I didn't love my job. I loved the place I worked. I loved the people I worked with, but I don't think I was that interested in it at the end. And so there wasn't that draw of going back. At the same time, our company was sold to a completely different company, a big corporation. And so the whole dynamic changed. And so it just wasn't very enticing for me to go back. And I don't know if it would have been different if I had a job that I was really interested in, or that was the same kind of dynamic going back. But really, I did go back part-time because I thought, well, this just doesn't seem like me to be a stay-at-home mom. So I did go back very part-time. I lasted about 6 months, and then I was done. And interestingly, like when I was time to go back to work, I went back a little bit because I thought, oh, this is really weird for me. I thought for sure, oh yeah, I'm going back to work for sure. And like you kind of said it earlier, like nobody would have ever expected that I wouldn't go back to work. But I went back and just realized like it wasn't for me. I don't think I liked my job as much as you like your job. And also our company had kind of changed hands. So a lot of the people I was working with weren't there. And so it just, I don't know, just wasn't for me. And so
it was
then
an easy time to step away.
Yeah, it was an easy time to step away. So I chose the stay-at-home mom life, and I think everybody was pretty shocked. And at first, I definitely did a terrible job of it. You know, like my house was just a mess. I was a mess. Like I said, I didn't shower. Oh my goodness, I was struggling so hard. And then, you know, obviously I found my way now. I've shared my journey on YouTube, and now I'm helping other people, which has become this amazing, really, I mean, I call it crazy, but like, it's just this job that's kind of fallen into my lap. And I think when I first started the YouTube channel, and nobody watched it, just my mom watched it. She was so proud of me.
You started it to help yourself. You didn't start it with the intention
I started to help
of
myself.
Becoming famous, YouTube famous, or being an influencer. You started it to hold yourself accountable, which I think is really cool because it was super organic how you grew.
Oh yeah, like I did it for like a year to the audience of like 100 people. Nobody was interested.
I think 100 is maybe I think 100 may be an exaggeration, Steph. I think you had like a really good solid 22 subscribers for like quite a while.
Yeah, for like a year. But you know what? I loved doing it, and it really helped me stay on track. And that was that year that I pulled myself out of that like stay-at-home mom slump. And so after a year, I filmed this before and after video of kind of what my house looked like when I very first started and what my house looked like a year later of working on systems and routines. And it got, you know, pushed out in the algorithm on YouTube, and that was that. And it was you that said to me, you know, this is a door that has opened. You didn't expect it. You didn't know it was there. You didn't even know the door existed. But I really think it would be a missed opportunity to not walk through this door. Do you remember saying that?
Yeah, I remember, because we happened to be on vacation when your video went viral, and I remember you hit 500 subscribers, and we were like, oh my gosh, like it was just, you know, you just kept getting more and more, and it was super exciting. And yeah, I remember saying, like, because we're not big social media people naturally, like that's not really, it wasn't really our thing. No. And so I don't even think you realized how crazy it was. Oh. And so that's why I was kind of saying, like, hey, you got to take this and run with it, because there's a lot of people out there who've been trying for a long time and aren't getting as far as you. So yeah, it was super cool.
Yeah. And I think like even when I had my, you know, I did have 100 followers at one point. Even when I had my original 100 people, and if you were out there, thank you. You know, we had a nice little community. We'd chit chat in the comments. That can't happen now. It's just way too big. But I do try to respond to comments. But you know, the best part of it was there was people out there saying, this is just like me. You are just like me. And not feeling alone and ashamed was a huge discovery. And that was the biggest thing for me, was learning that I am not alone. I have nothing to be ashamed of. I'm normal. Not everybody is a born housewife, June Cleaver, you know, Mrs. Dawn Draper, perfect stay-at-home mom. And it's okay to learn, and it's okay to start learning after you very
get
much
some help
failed.
Once in a while, you know, like our mom went up and helped you, and that's okay. And you know, even still, like we help each other as a family. And yeah, you know, even though you say you've got your stuff together, there's still times where it all kind of falls apart. And it's the same for me, you know. Last week I had to call up our mom and just say, I need you to get over here because I just completely burnt myself out. And we all have those moments. It doesn't matter how many routines you have and how much you have stuff together. Sometimes things just kind of crumble a little bit, and it's okay. It's what's important is to kind of pick yourself up again and to not, you know, beat yourself up about it. But getting back on track a little bit, we're tangenting, which is probably going to be common for us. But do you envy me as a working mom, do you think?
So I definitely am happy with my choice. And that's because I don't want to go back to the old job I had. However, I do feel like one thing I am really missing out on is that work social life. Having a work social circle. I had a really great company where I was working with lots of friends. I'm still friends with a lot of those people, but just being able to go there every single day and have people to kind of chit chat with or go out for lunch with was huge for me. And I'm a huge extrovert, as you know. I love being around people. I love talking to people. But now when I'm home with my kids all day, you know, if I want to hang out with someone, we have to make a plan. It has to work for me. It has to work for my kids. We have to, you know, usually go somewhere or they have to come here. And so it sometimes feels like a lot of long, lonely days without a lot of support. And sometimes my brain can start to go to mush a bit. So that's definitely something I do envy, is that kind of like getting to use your brain, challenge, making money, social time, adult time. There is a small caveat that I do my YouTube channel, and that has filled a very small part of that in terms of having that kind of brain, mental challenge part. But in terms of social, that really isn't filling that same gap. How about you? Do you envy me?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I don't know that I could do it. I don't think I could. I mean, really, when we have this conversation, I think the ideal world is working very part-time, you know, getting out and having that. But if we're talking, you know, working full-time versus not working at all, I envy parts of your life. You know, I find myself rushing and asking people a lot of favors just to help me with, like, you know, picking up the kids, or can you help me with this? Can you help me with this? Because I'm just, you know, constantly running around trying to, you know, get things done. But yeah, I mean, I envy your mornings. There are times when I wake up and I think, oh, it would be so nice to just spend some nice, relaxing time with my kids, and some options open when you're a stay-at-home mom. Like homeschooling isn't an option for me. And, you know, certain activities aren't an option for me with my kids and things like that. So I don't know that I would want to switch roles, but there's definitely some days where I think, you know, that would be really nice. But yeah, so I guess a little bit sometimes I do.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's the blend that might be kind of the perfect balance. And in that way, like, I do my YouTube, and that's kind of it is a job for me. But also, you know, someone brought up something interesting to me the other day, as they were saying, you know, when I was a stay-at-home mom, like when they were on maternity leave, they had to do all these things, the laundry and the kids and this and that. And for the most part, and I'm not going to, well, I'm generalizing here, but just, you know that there's exceptions to every rule. The moms take on the majority of the mental load and the work when it comes to kids, generally.
Yeah, and I don't think that matters if you're a working mom or you're a stay-at-home mom.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this was what she said, and this what really struck me is I'm like, oh yeah. For some people, moms especially, you're doing your work plus everything that I do in a day. And that's, I think, where you're talking about rush, is you have to do all the same things I have to do because your husband's away a lot of the time. So it is just you. And it's just so packed, I feel like.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the things, you know, there's some shortcuts in the day. You make these amazing dinners for your family, and we were talking about it because if some of the dinners I feed my kids are creative, because they just need to be fed sometimes, and Steph's gonna laugh.
You fed them a cucumber for dinner not that long ago. Should they just eat a cucumber?
They wanted it. It was one of my kids wanted an entire cucumber, and you know what, if they want to eat an entire cucumber for dinner and they're, you know, getting their veggie intake, hey, I'm all for it. It was easy for me. Unwrap it, give them each a cucumber, and they sat on the couch and ate it. Because it was funny, because
I know,
your husband loves having a hot meal when he comes home. And, you know, I was saying, I don't do this and blah, blah, blah. And you're saying, well, you should have me do this. And I'm thinking, how am I going to do this when I get home at, 5 o'clock? My kids wanted dinner a half an hour ago. And so a lot of times my kids' favorite meal now is a charcuterie board because it's basically me making them a giant snack board. And it has all the food groups on there, but it's definitely not a sit down family meal like I would like sometimes, but yeah.
Well, I remember when you told me that, and all I could think was like, my husband, who is, very loving and supportive, and if it came to it, it would be fine. But I just pictured if he came home and I was like, here's dinner. And it was just like 5 cucumbers on the table.
Yeah.
I think he would need to, there would be some explanation needed. I mean, like, again, especially in those early days when I was struggling, I mean, we had a lot of takeout, a lot of skip the dishes, and he would just say, as long as you're happy, that's all that matters. The baby's alive, you're taking care of yourself, you're taking care of the baby, that's it. I mean, as we've gone on, though, the expectation has increased slightly,
Yeah.
It's not fair to live like that either to your spouse, for them to come home and you're just a mess every day. But, coming out of babyhood and stuff, it's a lot easier.
Yeah,
when you have a brand new baby, there's all that other stuff going on.
And the cucumber meals, that was a one-off, but not saying I wouldn't do it again, but it was really funny. Just like a quick, really funny story is I was at the gym and the gym I go to is really great. It's a small one. I can take my kids there. And so I brought them these big snack boxes with me and I had made them sandwiches and I cut them into heart shapes. And the trainer who was at the gym says, "Oh, you're one of those moms, hey, cutting the sandwiches into heart shapes." And I look at her and I said, "My kids are eating dinner at a gym right now. Pretty sure I'm not one of those moms."
Yes.
And she's like, "Yeah, that's a good point, actually."
There you go. Have you seen this show recently? And it's a Canadian show called Workin' Moms. I say workin' because there's no G. Workin' Moms.
Workin' Moms? No, but I've heard about it and I need to watch it because I've heard a lot of good things. But I've heard it's a very realistic portrayal of, the early days.
Yeah, and I think I thought it was really interesting to watch because they just bear it all. And it's just all those stigmas and cliches about working mothers that people kind of cringe at naturally, although there's nothing cringy about it. It's just kind of, historically, the way people have kind of come to be. It's not right, but it's just so important that it gets addressed. So I wanted to quickly touch on some of those stigmas, like stigmas that you think surround being a working mom, and then we can talk about the ones of being a stay-at-home mom. Being
a working mom, I guess one of the things people think is maybe that I'm not as there for my kids as a stay-at-home mom would be. I'm not able to take them to all the things that a stay-at-home mom could. They have to go to daycare all day and really get raised by another person for a lot of their day, which, is hard for me to admit, but that's just realistic. And so, even our mom doesn't like the fact that my kids go to daycare, which is funny because we both went to a day home.
She worked full time.
Yeah, she worked part-time a little bit when I was little, but she often says, "Oh, poor them, they have to go." And I'm thinking, I'm doing my best here, and I do my best to put them in a safe environment with people who are loving and stuff like that. And it doesn't mean I don't love them as much as a stay-at-home mom. I do love my job.
Yeah.
And I love my kids, and it's a balance. And sometimes I feed my kids cucumbers for dinner, and that doesn't make me love them any less. But yeah, it's
definitely that stigma of like you're putting them second, right? And that's not true at all, obviously.
No, it's not true. It's a balance. And, I'm sure during your day, there's often times where, you have to get things done yourself too. And you're not sitting on the floor playing with your kids 8 hours of the day, right? So it's doing the best for me. And for me, in my mental health, it's important for me to be at work. I think I would struggle otherwise. And so, sometimes you have to think of being a healthy mom is being happy, and my best self is being a working mom. So
yeah, no, yeah, and that's fair. And you said that too, is just like you're a better parent, or you feel you're a better parent because you work.
Absolutely.
Which I think that's really interesting. And then, in the same breath, I think becoming a stay-at-home mom or deciding to be a stay-at-home mom, and there's a big shift towards stay-at-home mom that's kind of happening here, has its own stigmas. And I think a lot of them come from kind of this women's rights movement that we should be or not should, obviously we should be, that we are equals. We need to go back to the workforce, show that we're, doing our own thing, taking care of ourselves, supporting ourselves. 100% agree. But I also truly feel that it is a choice that we all get to make. And that's the best part of the women's rights movement, is that we now get this choice. You can choose, and it's okay to choose being a stay-at-home mom. So sometimes I do feel like, and not necessarily in my town, because there's a lot of stay-at-home moms in my town. There's a lot of husbands that work away and wives that work away, and so there's quite a few stay-at-home moms. But I do, like, when I come to the city, all of your friends work.
Yeah, I don't know a single stay-at-home mom.
And I sometimes feel like there's kind of a stigma that I couldn't work if I wanted to. Maybe I'm not uneducated, or my husband chose this life for me. I have no life. And then on top of that, there's an expectation that I'm also this perfect housekeeper, home cook, just looking perfect all the time. Everything's taken care of. I'm so calm with my children, which is completely not true. But I think this stigma, I held that idea before becoming a stay-at-home mom. I never thought in a million years I would be a stay-at-home mom. I thought I was going to work forever, and I absolutely love it. And I cannot imagine my life any other way. I can tell you right now, I'm not lazy. I'm also not uneducated. I do have a degree. I used to have a job. Not that that matters. And my husband didn't choose this. For a time, I said I was going to go back. I think he really likes that I'm a stay-at-home mom because his mom was a stay-at-home mom. And so he kind of loves to see his childhood being kind of in our kids' childhoods. But yeah, it's really changed my whole mind about what being a stay-at-home mom is and what value it really does have in a child's life.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think, that's not something I actually thought about because, I agree with you that, to be an independent woman and to be a modern woman is to be able to make the choice. And whether you're able or choose to be a stay-at-home mom is great. And if you choose to go back to work, that's great too. But you're right. I could see that is something that you might feel that maybe other women might judge you for staying home.
Sure, I think so. That was a big topic of discussion. Like around the 8-month mark, your baby's around like 6-8 months. Are you going back to work? Or when are you going back to work? Or what are you going to do? Or where are you going for daycare? And then kind of putting it out there what your choice was a big topic of discussion. And then everybody has an opinion about it. And then they want to share, why they're making their choice. And it really is different for every single person. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Well, should we kind of start wrapping things up and just kind of talk about, touching on what your YouTube's kind of all about and, our daily lives? Do you have any kind of tips for those stay-at-home moms, or just kind of to let people in your day and just talk about how do you make your life easier as a stay-at-home mom? Is there any kind of, obviously we know you do your routines and you have your plan set, but is there something you specifically do as a stay-at-home mom to make, being a stay-at-home mom enjoyable and easier?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of what this podcast is mostly about, is how we can take different parts of our lives and make them easier and more efficient and more fun, right? Mm-hmm. So in terms of making your stay-at-home mom life easier, the most important thing that I have discovered is implementing, and if you've seen my YouTube channel, The Secret Slob, I will just talk for hours about this, is implementing daily routines and habits, and even to a certain point, schedules. Because if you just get up and the day has no direction whatsoever, that's fine some days. It's really nice to be spontaneous some days, but a lot of days, nothing gets done. You can barely even get yourself out of your pajamas and into some clean clothes, and it just feels like you can't get control of the day, I think. So yeah. Really deciding what's most important to get done every single day, making a plan, writing it down if you need to do that, deciding what needs to get done, and also, even more importantly, realizing that you cannot do it all. You can't get it all done. It's not going to be perfect, especially if you have little kids. The house isn't going to look perfect, and you'll look perfect, and the kids look perfect, and you have a perfect day, and nobody fights, and nobody cries. There is going to be struggle, and just coming into it with a calm mind, calm mindset, and recognizing your imperfection, but that you're doing your best and giving yourself a pat on the back for that anyways. I think that's going to be your biggest asset going into the life of a stay-at-home mom.
Which is really funny because for me, I was going to say the same thing as a working mom, just not being too hard on yourself, giving yourself a break and, sometimes, we're the biggest critics of our own lives. And I get this mom guilt a lot of times, if my kids are watching TV.
How did we not talk about mom guilt this whole podcast?
That's really what it comes down to is mom guilt. You feel, and especially with social media, you see what, you want to be, and it's just not possible. It's not possible to be that social media mom. We're seeing, that beautiful part of their lives, which I'm sure is great, but there's, behind the scenes, a lot of, hard times as well.
Behind the camera.
Yeah. Which
I can tell you more than a few times I've filmed a YouTube video and shoved many clothes just to the side of my bed. It happens.
Out of the camera's
It's not perfect.
View. Yeah. So I think I was,
yes.
To make things easier, just to give yourself a break and, to just not feel that guilt that comes along with, anything, whatever you're giving your kids, they need love and they need, care, and they need those essentials, and they need you to be there for them. And I think that's what's most important. And, forgetting about, are they playing with, the toy of the year? Are they, doing the sensory bin with all of the special things, probably, maybe not. And that's okay.
I seriously dislike sensory bins. I'm sorry. I know they're so popular. I can't even stand them.
I can't do sensory bins because my cat thinks they're litter boxes. So if they get left out for like 10 minutes, she will find them. And then that's that. I learned that the hard way. And we are a non-sensory bin house, and I'm totally fine with that. So.
Oh, that's funny. Okay. On that note, do you have a funny story to share for this podcast?
Oh, should we do funny stories every podcast?
Yeah, definitely. That's the best part.
Okay. Well, I had a funny story.
You said you had one.
Yes,
you said you had one. So
I did have one, but because whenever I come on your YouTube channel, you always say like, let's do a funny story. And sometimes I'm like, racking my brain trying to think of one. And so I thought of one the other day, and it's really, like, to let the listeners know, very unrelated to anything, we're talking about. It's just kind of a nice, funny story at the end of what we're doing. But this happened about 10 years ago, maybe even 12 years ago. It was when online dating was just kind of gaining popularity. I was new to the city, and I was going on my first online date. And I was super nervous because online dating was not really popular then. And so I didn't really know what to expect. And I was living
Well, it was new, yeah.
Yeah, it was new. And I was young. And so I told my roommate.
Well, how old would you have been? Like 22, right?
Yeah, I was young. It was before I went
21,
to
22.
college or anything. So I told my roommates, I was texting them, and I said, get here now. Like, I need help. Come home, because I was getting ready for this date, and I was just losing it. So they come home and they help me get ready for this date. And we discussed, okay, I said, if I text you to come and help me, like, you got to come in and make up this big elaborate story and get me out of this date. Because at this time I'm thinking, like, you hear these horror stories of these dates. So I go across.
Well, you're new to online dating, but you're also new to just dating as an adult.
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
yes.
And that was the whole thing too.
So I'm assuming there's a good chance this guy is like, a crazy person. So I go on this date. It's going great. He's super nice. We have a lot in common. We're chatting, and we're just across the road from my house. But again, 12 years ago is kind of when, like, cell phones used to have a bit of a lag in them. Sometimes, like, you would send a text and it would come through. This is when we're using, like, T9 on my flip phone here. So apparently they'd never gotten those first texts that I had said, like, get home or get here, like, I need help. And they just got them when I was on the date. They never had gotten them before. They'd just kind of come home. So they think I'm on this date and I need help. So they bust into this bar that we're at, having a drink, having a great time.
Get here now.
Because they get this text and get here, I need help. So they come up and they're telling me that my grandmother's died. And I'm sitting there looking at them no. They're like, we gotta go, Jill. Your grandmother's died, because I've told them to make up a story. And
This is the most cliche. Like,
I know. I'm looking at them thinking, like,
excuse.
What are they doing? Because, like, I'm pretty, like, I know they're trying to get me out of this date. Like, I know my grandmother hasn't died, and I don't remember how I knew that they were just making this up.
Well, because she had already died.
Yeah.
She had died 5 years before that.
That's true. Great point.
Right? Like, that's how.
That would give it away. So I'm looking at them thinking, like, what are you doing? They're like, yeah, you gotta go. We gotta go, Jill. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So I get up and I leave this date and I walk out the door and I say, what on earth, you guys? And they say, well, you texted us to come help you. And I look at their text and I was, oh my God, never saw the guy again until about 6 years later. He was actually my, the flight attendant on WestJet. Yes.
Oh.
And I said, I was with Justin, my partner now. I said, I know that guy. I know that guy from somewhere. And, I guess you just always remember your first online date because I knew it right away. I said, that is the guy that I went on that date with.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, it was crazy. Anyway, so funny story, but...
Did you talk to him? Did you say like, hey, do you remember me?
No, absolutely not. No.
What?
No.
Oh, I would have.
No, it was
Excuse me.
I did.
Do you remember when I left my date? Because my grandma died. Oh, he must have been crushed. Because, like, how could you not think, oh, these girls have definitely come to purposely remove her here?
You know what? Good for them. They followed through. How would they know any better? And they were really convincing. And he's looking at me like, well, you better go. And I'm like, no, I'm fine. And he's thinking like, why are you still
Yeah, this insensitive lady. Oh, that's so funny.
Anyways, so that's my funny story. You'll have to think of one for our next podcast episode.
So I will definitely think of something funny for our next podcast. I hope you will listen in. We are brand new to this world, so I'm not sure if you have to subscribe or follow or click a button, but if you'd like to hear it again, we'll post them on YouTube and onto Instagram, and I'll link them from my own YouTube channel as well. But thank you for listening in today. Let us know in the comments what you think, stay-at-home mom or working mom, who has it better. And we will talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.